extraordinaire, the gemologist.
All right, hello everyone, and welcome to the Geomologist Presents. I have Stefan Surratt, the owner of Dragon Peak Publishing. You may have seen recent Kickstarters that he'll talk about, Merchants of the Multiverse and Mysteries of the Multiverse, and he's also written the first third-party modules for the latest incarnation of Weird West craziness, which are called, actually it's one tome, it's called The Brimstone Cradle and the Hills That Hunger. And that is coming out soon as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, as soon as Weird Frontiers is available to the general public, this will be too.
Well, that's great. Well, thank you for coming on the show, and hopefully we get to talk about Weird West, Regular West, and a lot of your projects. So tell me about Dragon Peak Publishing. I mentioned a couple of things that they got there on the drive-through, and Mysteries, which I can see behind you. It's a highlight of the art, which is pretty cool. It's that. So is it DCC product?
Mutant Crawl Classics.
So, it's Mutant Crawl Classics, right? So it's got that aesthetic.
Mm-hmm.
We all love that kind of cartoonish art. That something crazy is going on. Pushes the gonzo nature of MCC, DCC. I don't know. I feel like Weird Frontier is a little more serious, but we can talk about that too. So anyway, Stefan, right? Stefan,
I'm good either way, honestly.
Yeah. I don't know why I'm making you European. Anyway, Stefan, Thank you for coming on the show. Tell us a bit about yourself. Like, how did you get into the hobby?
I got into it through, I've been gaming for a little bit more than 15 years now. I'm a younger guy we have a very young people, very old people in this hobby. I started out really with video games, and the one that turned me was where there's the straight through line is Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, because folks who don't know that game, the mechanics of that game, it's just exactly 3rd edition D&D. It's like a 1-to-1. It's exactly it. So played that. A buddy went, hey, so this is actually Dungeons and Dragons, and we just didn't know. And I went, oh, well, we both love this game. 3.5 came out like right around that time, and that meant all the 3rd edition stuff was on big discounted sales. So our broke butts could actually get into D&D that way.
Yeah.
He got the 3rd edition box set. I played Lydia the Halfling Rogue. That was my first PC. I still remember the miniature. I haven't seen that miniature in ages. He lost it. And I got trapped behind a magic mirror for all of eternity. So that's how my first game went. I walked home that night, but I couldn't stop thinking about how I wanted to do it again, but different, and hopefully live.
Yeah. Was that based on like a saving throw and you failed it and that's what happened?
No.
Was it more like a story happened and you made the wrong decision? That's just curious.
It was just a bad decision. There's like a lady on the other side of a magic mirror. She couldn't get out. And I thought, well, maybe if I go in, but like I don't go all the way in, I keep like a hand out, someone can pull me out. And I don't think it was a saving throw. I think it just, it probably should have been. Maybe it just wasn't written well. It's been a while, but to my remembering, a lot of the 3rd and 3.5 edition adventure stuff wasn't written that well. But I just got stuck on the other side. In that game, at least, it was just a bad decision.
Oh, interesting. So it was a published adventure or something your buddy...
Yeah.
Oh,
no, it was the box set for 3rd edition.
Wow.
So
yeah, I remember Sunless Citadel also had that like make the choice and die type of stuff too. If you make, and it's not a saving throw, you just make the wrong choice or do things at the wrong time, honestly, and you just die. And maybe that's Sunless Citadel before it got revised for 3.5, and then now it's in a 5e tone. It's a 5e collection of adventures. But yeah, that had that. Maybe early testing, and no, I don't know. That's really interesting. So that kind of in a way bucks the claim that from Wizards of the Coast, D&D is it's sort of you can't die in that. It's not as right. There's no but there were. I think in the early adventures there were those types of things. Anyway,
it was definitely a lot easier.
Observation.
3.5. I don't know. But yeah, since then I DM'd a lot of stuff. I've run a lot of old adventures. I used a lot of the classic modules today stuff that folks can find on DM's Guild, because I wanted to run like Temple of Elemental Evil before before Goodman Games put out their big adaptation of it, I found like other much more compact adaptations for that and a lot of other stuff. Ran a bunch of old school stuff in 5e and did like a level 1 to 20 campaign. Just doing that. Towards the end, it became a lot more homebrew. And I found out about Dungeon Crawl Classics and started adapting some stuff. So like I adapted an 8th level DCC adventure, Colossus Arise, for like a 15th level 5e group, which it went pretty well, I think, just because I had a good understanding of how to threaten my players at that point. But it was all just adjusting things 100% on the fly. But it became one of those things, like I DM'd that campaign for like a couple years. And before that, I DM'd like a 3.5 campaign for like almost a couple of years. And after doing those for that long, I was like, all right, I know how the sausage is just made, and I've made the sausage. I don't want any more sausage. I found out about Dungeon Crawl Classics and just like headfirst dived into that because it fixed a lot of fantasy, like Magic just being a science you can predict every time. It fixed boring warriors with the mighty deeds mechanic, and that's where I've been ever since with some other stuff. Like I'm not straight. Like I love Call of Cthulhu and some other things. I'm going to be at a convention, try out like 4 new systems soon. But my main love is Dungeon Crawl Classics.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. Why DCC? You mentioned a couple things: the mighty deeds from the fighter, and then the unpredictability of Magic. And I think that to me is what is the big draw of that. Even though it is based on sort of the 3.0, 3.5, it's the spine of it, the chassis of it, but then it has all these little things that change it. And I would say, I don't know, the term gonzo is thrown around. Is that insulting to you? I don't think I like that craziness, but I don't.
I love it. Yeah, I don't think it's. I mean, some people don't want that wildness, and I'll tell them, if you don't want that wildness, but you love the system, play the Chained Coffin, Shutter Mountain stuff, which is like Americana folklore stuff, and it's still very fantastical in sword and sorcery, but it's set in like Appalachian Americana folklore. Or go play the Lankmar stuff, which is like much more down to earth in general, and and you don't have clerics or demi-humans there either.
Yeah, that's interesting. So it's human focused, but it still has the magic system, right? You still have to roll to see what happens, and that's a big thing. I enjoy the luck mechanic. Not as codified a skill system, and the GM and the player can kind of discuss, what we're going to use, what attribute we're going to use to hit the, to try to attempt to hit the DC, the target number for success. So I like that a lot. I like DCC a lot, and I think that here's something that I do ask a lot of DCC folks: so funnel versus level.
I prefer the level ones. I mean, I love the funnels too, but the funnels, they're like a sub game to the real game. And
right, but you see a lot of funnels at conventions. So why do you think that is?
I think it's just because it's like players don't need to know a thing about the system. Really, because you don't have to worry about class features, so it's just dead simple. The only complication is you're probably controlling 4 different characters, but you're gonna have some deaths, and there won't be 4 for very long.
Right. Yeah. So all right. So you played a lot. You really fell in love with DCC. So what sparked that sort of transition from just a player to now running a gaming company, authoring, having successful Kickstarters?
Well, I've been, as I mentioned, I've been running like a lot of homebrew and like adapting published stuff. And, when you adapt published material, I think you should always tweak it, just to best fit your group. So I've been doing that kind of stuff on my own for a long time. And I thought about like back when WotC was still doing like their online Dragon magazine, I remember thinking about submitting stuff for that. I remember reading like the rules where it's like, even if they don't like your thing, they still get to own your thing, basically. Right? So I never did anything with that. I was also a lot younger, of course. And had a lot of that lack of confidence that I think a lot of folks have an issue with when they're younger. Um, but the DCC community it's a very welcoming community. Everyone just kind of wants, if you say you have an idea for something, people are so encouraging and say, yeah, work on that. What are you thinking? Like you can just ask and people will be very willing to like help you out if they've done stuff before. People have done that for me. I've done that for other people. And there's community publications like the Gong Farmers Almanac. And there's also just like the big zine community for, yeah, hey, do something that's like, a 20-page long and it's half page size. So it's like, if you write 10,000 words, you're going to have a 48-page long thing. You can just write like 5,000 and have a few nice pictures. It'll be like 24 pages long, and that's still plenty long. So it's still just like the community, the vibe from the community makes the barrier to entry feel super low.
Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, I guess that encourages me because, in a way, that's how we sort of interacted. I don't think we met at North Texas RPG Con, but we interacted definitely with the same people. I ran a Weird Frontiers game, and then I guess a lot of that was crazy. A lot of Weird Frontiers games were run at this past North Texas RPG Con. I think everyone was very excited, and I know that Dave Beatty of Stiff Whiskers Press, he wanted to have the book out by then, but things happen, and he did bring a really cool looking advanced copy, and it was really fun to run and really fun to play. And I guess that's how you contacted me to talk about this and maybe hopefully get me over that hump. And you reached out to me, so that's kind of cool that it's kind of proof there that DCC, MCC, Weird Frontiers community kind of reaches out to people, hears about a good idea, and hey, let's talk about it. Let's get this thing going. Let's make that transition. That's definitely very encouraging for me. I've been running games forever, probably since the late 70s, early 80s, and have tried a few times to, I know I made a submission a long time ago to Dungeon, and school just got the better of me, and it never came to fulfillment. It's kind of younger, had other priorities, but I don't know, maybe it'd be great to do that. So that's a good. Let's talk about your products first, and then we'll jump into Weird Frontiers eventually, I'm sure. So tell me about the multiverse products.
Yeah, so I made those for Mutant Crawl Classics. That came out of the first one, Merchants of the Multiverse, was I had a bunch of weird artifacts in Mutant Crawl Classics. It's like thousands of years past the post-apocalypse. No one even remembers what of a variety of things caused the apocalypse, and it's depending on where you are and what you like your own game to be like, it can be very like, we don't know what agriculture is anymore, or it can be like, yeah, we got agriculture, we have livestock, or yes, we're living in the ruins of old. So there's like a lot of variety of your post-apocalypse. But I had made like one really weird merchant, an equation for trading, and some more weird artifacts that the core book for that has plenty, but I made more because in my home game I had DCC characters. Some interplanar mishaps occur. They're in the post-apocalypse, and they've got all this gold and nothing to do with it because it's not a gold-based economy. But gold is good for repairing semiconductors and stuff like that. I don't know. So, but I came up with a little. And in the MCC core rulebook, it also at one point it's like no one would ever trade artifacts. They're too valuable. I'm like, well, that doesn't. Everything has a price. That doesn't make sense. If you have two of something and I have two of something, neither of us need two. We'll probably trade if it's mutually beneficial. So yeah, I made a little thing for that. I expanded on it. I worked with an artist who also did the adventure in Merchants of the Multiverse, and we did that for Zine Quest a couple of years ago, and I continued on it this year. I don't know when this is gonna drop, but Mysteries of the Multiverse is the latest one. backers have almost all gotten it. The folks in Canada and the UK, I don't think they've gotten it quite yet, but they're soon, and it'll be generally available on like Drive-Thru RPG and the Goodman Games store and a couple other spots. Exalted Funeral also, before probably like the end of August, 2022, or around then at least.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. So that's yeah. You said you started. Speaking of Zine Quest, you said you did the Merchants of the Multiverse for Zine Quest. Are you participating in Zine Quest this year?
I'm not. I might do something for the one in February. I mean, they were Kickstarter kind of didn't quite nail their timing, their execution of Zine Quest in 2022. I might be back for 2023, but we'll see. I've if you look at I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right, but Ian Usum or Usum, he's done some Mothership products, and he's got a really good analytical mind. He's collected a lot of data about when they did, not Kickstarter specifically, but like just this kind of community, this industry. They did Zine Month back in February this year, and he collected a lot of like really good data. And one of the interesting things in there that I would have never guessed is he compared their Zine Month thing to Zine Quest the year before, and also like not produced. It was like, oh, doing your thing during Zine Quest doesn't actually appear to have a significant boost to your overall like funding levels. Like, you know, if you have a good product, you're probably going to do just as well outside of it as you would in it.
Oh, okay. So it's not, there's no significant benefit to doing community based.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's unfortunate. Maybe it'll improve. But so are you working on anything now then?
Yeah, I've got, I don't have like a set release schedule. I just have things that I feel like working on. Mm-hmm. So I've got like a couple pamphlet adventure, or actually like, well, it was probably up to 4 pamphlet adventures. I've done 2 already for Primal Quest, which is a whole other system, like Stone and Sorcery by Diogo Nogueira, which I found the setting really intriguing, really liked it. I've also got like several DCC and MCC and Weird Frontiers things. I'm kind of working. I'm running a play test of Weird Frontiers adventure, first one for this, so we'll see how it goes. I'm doing that this Sunday night. The working title for that is Big Trouble for a Little Blood, which the inspiration is the fact that the movie Big Trouble for Little China started out its life as a screenplay as a Western.
Oh yeah, totally makes sense. So are you going to set it in like Chinatown, San Francisco, or?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Sounds really cool. Yeah, I mean, yeah. So we're going to talk about Weird Frontiers now, everyone. So I really liked it. Since I've been looking at it from the early incarnations of it. What David Beatty had put out before, and I really enjoy Weird West. I've run and played Deadlands, for example. I like the Call of Cthulhu. We won't say the name because it's still, but Call of Cthulhu has a Weird West setting, and I really enjoyed Weird Frontiers. Like when he first came out with the Quick Start, which was huge, right? Like 100-page, 100-page
like
Quick Start
edition. It was like, oh my gosh, I thought it'd be like the DCC one, which is like 48 pages and with 2 adventures in there. Yeah, it was enormous though.
Yeah, I think it is bigger than the DCC book, by the way.
Yeah, it's like 3 times as bigger. Or right. the Quick Start.
Yeah. So it was very compelling. I mean, I think the final product is even more exciting to me. It has like 12 different character classes you can play, each very evocative. All of them are, in a way, it reminds me of like RuneQuest, where all the characters are magic. All the characters use magic, so I kind of like that they all have some sort of mechanic where they can, tap into something esoteric, and from the luchador to the ghost speaker,
the
Calavera, yeah. So I think it's pretty neat. So how did you get into Weird Frontiers then, or what was the inspiration for for your products. Again, it's the Brimstone Cradle and the Hills That Hunger.
Yeah. So and it was I saw the Kickstarter for it. I immediately was like, yes, I want this. I've much the same as you. I've played a lot of weird Western stuff throughout my, gamer life. I'm also from Texas. I grew up in a really small town that became not a small town as I got older. But when I was, some of my early memories are me attempting to lasso like a stick I put in the yard, and hearing the pigs street, because the old lady who lived from me across the street had pigs in her backyard that she just liked her pigs, and she kept them. They were like her pets. So the closest McDonald's was nearly an hour drive away. So like small little town.
Do you mind sharing what town you're from? I live in Texas too.
Oh, okay. I grew up in Frisco, Texas.
Oh, Frisco. Wow. Yeah. So that's near Dallas Fort Worth area. Yeah. So Frisco. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Not small anymore, but
no, it's not.
Sure
no, I mean it's the concrete jungle between Dallas Fort Worth. But yeah, that's crazy. So yeah, I think Texas is definitely we have that stereotype that we're cowboys and 10-gallon hats and boots and spurs and big belt buckles, and yeah, it's almost a natural fit if you're from Texas or the Southwest. All on the way up through the more southern Great Plains states that you have the sort of cowboy weird West feel. Although right, you could go weird West could take place, or old West type games can take place anywhere from the Canadian border on down, right? So
absolutely, yeah.
Right, shoot, even if you, I mean, if you count Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid as a Western, that takes place in South America. So a lot of it does for the whole adventures, escapades. So yeah, I think it's a really neat genre. So tell me about like the development of your product.
Yeah. So I think I started writing The Hills That Hunger first, and I initially was calling that Raiders on a Ruthless Ridge, because if you kind of look at the structure of it, it is like I was trying to teach myself how to write a good adventure, and I was looking at the structure of the DCC adventure, Sailors on a Starless Sea. So you can, while having played that is not going to help you one bit, and like being able to guess what's coming next, you can maybe see some of the like structural similarities in the like, okay, you are here, and like here are kind of your progression options, and here's the things in the middle. And I started writing that, and honestly I wrote it and like didn't really touch it for like 6 months. I did like a couple play tests, and my wife was pregnant at the time, so life was just super busy. And just pregnancy and COVID and working a lot, and so it was just a busy time. And the other one, the Brimstone Cradle, because it's the Brimstone Cradle and the Hills of Hunger, because it's two adventures. They're just packaged together. Both you can run them in
are they related?
About it. Unrelated adventures, so they can. Hills That Hunger can either be a good funnel, or it can be a good first level adventure. I play tested as both. It works well as both. It's a pretty mean adventure. I won't lie about that. It's probably on the more difficult side, but I only had a couple TPKs, and I tweaked it down a little bit each time. Also kind of going, well, how smart did they play? Not, but it's still, it's a mean one. And then but that one is the inspiration, the thematic inspiration for what the adventure is kind of Texas Chainsaw Massacre meets The Hills Have Eyes.
Yeah. I feel like I get that from the title.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, so it's curious that you
horror.
So it's curious that you did, so in the product, do you have rules for like the funnel and the first level, or explanation how you do both? Because that's how I conceived the thing I'm working on, which I know some of my listeners know about it, so I'm not worried about what it's called. I was calling it For a Few Coppers More, and it's inspired by where my dad grew up, which is southwestern New Mexico. There's an old copper mine that now is an open pit uranium mine. But there's an old copper mine that was out there. There's the Mimbrianos tribe that our family history. We always had like a legend that we were related to the Mimbrianos, Mangas Coloradas, and who's the father-in-law of Cochise, so more what Apache tribes, so Lipan or North Mexican Apache tribe, but Mimbrianos being one of them. But my uncle actually found out that we are related, and my great grandmother was half Mimbrianos. So it's really cool, and it's inspired by some of the things out there, and I mean, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre from Texas. So yeah, so that's pretty cool. But I did play test it as a funnel before, and then at North Texas I did it as a first level adventure. So I'm just curious if you. That's why I'm asking. I'm curious if you had both options. Explain how to do either option, or does it matter? I mean,
I think it depends how you write it. There's no one answer. But in what I did, I didn't have anything in there for doing it different one way or the other. There's really just a couple points in there where I basically, near the beginning, there's one point where I just basically say, hey, if they're struggling, play the enemies a little dumber. And if they're doing really well, play them a little smarter. And then they're a little deeper in the text. There's a couple specific parts where I mentioned that. And one where I mentioned that, and another near the end where let's just, not really spoilers, you might imagine. There's kind of a big, horrible monster at some point in there, perhaps near a climactic area, suitably so. And I put some advice in there of like, hey, if they're doing terribly, maybe they should run away and try to use the environment to their advantage. And if you really want to, you can suggest that. Here's a few, good ways that maybe they can't defeat the monster, but maybe they can, make it so that it's not an issue for them anymore, that they trap the monster at least. So nothing mechanically changed, but it's just advice for like how the judge can alter how they use the text.
Well, that's really cool. Yeah. So, and then the other Brimstone Cradle is inspired by what, or is very different, I guess?
Very different. So the Hills That Hunger is like it's more a traditional adventure in that it's more like a dungeon crawl than it's not. The Brimstone Cradle is like an event-based thing. It is takes place Christmas morning. There's basically, I just say, put them on the road. They're on the road. If it's a one shot, they're on the road coming to visit family for Christmas, but they haven't quite made it to the town they're hoping to get to. And if it's not a one shot, if it's part of a campaign, you just try to work it in as best you can for your group. Because we're all going to do that anyway. But it's Christmas morning. You haven't quite made it to town. Horrible blizzard starts happening. You guys are going to get snowed in if you don't break camp. You are trying to get to town, and you smell some smoke. There's a cabin on the top of a hill nearby, and you hear a blood-curdling scream up there. Everyone has always gone to investigate it. There's some stuff in there for if PCs want to ignore this entirely, or after they investigate it, if they just want to leave. But no one has ever done that, because what it turns into is you're trapped in a cabin for the rest of the night adventure. It is more inspired by stuff like Evil Dead, where, it's just a cabin, basically. And people I found in playtesting, people love that. They love that. Like, we have to stay here. We have to stay here until dawn. Dawn will be safe, because you get in there and there's a little bit of like, you don't quite know what's happening at first. There's people crouched over a woman. She's on a bed. She's screaming. Whatever happens, the woman is giving birth. She gives birth to a little boy, Christmas Day, early hours, and she's immediately dragged to hell by demons. And the demons want the baby too. But she wasn't holding the baby at the time. The doctor was. So the demons didn't immediately get the baby. So protect that baby until dawn. And it's a very event-based thing. If this happens, have a little breather. This happens. And I tried to structure that more on that, like the horror movie pacing of like, have that action scene, raise the tension, let everyone breathe, calm down for a minute, make some plans, reinforce the doors or board up the windows, do something like that, and have some more spooky nonsense happen and gradually ramp things up until dawn, while they also have time to figure out the mystery of why this is all happening in the first place.
Cool. So it seems like it has like a dusk till dawn, Hateful Eight type of vibe.
A little bit. I was in there. I put in some references. I think I put in two Sam Raimi movies. I think I put in Evil Dead 2 and also Drag Me to Hell.
Yeah, cool. Okay.
I forget what the third reference I put in was. But the real life thing I did is I started writing that in December while my wife was pregnant, because I was watching horror movies and around Christmas time and going and looking at my pregnant wife and going, and man, I got an idea for something.
Did you dedicate it to her?
Nightmarish.
Did you dedicate it to her?
Yeah, she's got a big thank you in there.
Interesting. Is she cool with that?
She was cool. I talked to her about it. She was cool.
Yeah, that's cool. That's neat how real life inspiration and how the mind works and to get to that point. So yeah, I guess you said then you have some projects and some irons in the fire, some projects that might be coming out. So how did it work, right? So as a third party with Stiff Whiskers, with Weird Frontiers.
So Dave made it really easy. I was the first one to approach him about this, and he was excited about that. He had to talk to Joseph Goodman from Goodman Games because he didn't have a third party license yet. In the end, he basically got the DCC one and just replaced Goodman Games with Stiff Whiskers, etc. So I had to technically it's why it has the compatibility logo for DCC and also Weird Frontiers, because I had to sign the third party license for both of them and make it compatible with both, which really wasn't any harder than just doing it for one, and neither of them are asking to take a cut. So I mean, it's in the end it was an easy thing. Now Dave has the third party license ready to go for whoever else wants it, and I hope there'll be more, because I've played in a couple other people's protests, and I can think of one, this guy John Watson, who I played at I think Lone Star Game Expo a few years ago, which is in Grapevine, Texas. It's actually coming up in a couple of months. But he had a Weird Frontiers adventure called Hell Train, and it was so much fun. But I haven't heard peep about that since, and I want it to get published.
Yeah. I thought what was really cool is that, and this is what's inspiring me, is like both the times that I've run it, a few times I've run it, it's always different, and I think that's what's so cool to me. And having something that you think about and you feel like it's going to go this way, but what players do, makes it so unique. And I think that's something to me has always been the fascination about role playing games is, right? You have a script, but it's going to be different every time, right? In one case, I got into the players got into a firefight with other prospectors, and in another case, players really were very hyper focused on something in the landscape, and we're able to avoid a lot of that conflict and found a really cool, I thought, a very cool resolution. And sometimes they ignore some of the NPCs that are thrown out, and sometimes they engage with them. And I thought this is so kind of neat, to do that. It was fun, and I think Weird Frontiers, what I like about it the most, I think so far, is that the class options make it super cool.
Yeah,
right.
So that's one of the things I had to really consider, because the class, I started writing both them when it was still in the bootleg stuff, and then the classes all changed.
They changed a bit.
So I had to go back and rewrite some stuff and just go, okay, I want to make sure that there's options for some of the classes to use their special class features. I don't want it to feel like your stuff is forgotten about when it would make sense. So I had to go in there and go, okay, all right, let's have a spirit here and maybe when the people with the spirit talking, or they can go into the near, they can do that. And, okay, let me try to go here. So yeah. Some of them it's easy. The luchador, you always got the opportunity to, suplex somebody. But
yeah, it was good. Again, and it was fun. We had, I think we had we had like a gambler, got to do card stuff. We had an old timey a Tommy knocker who was in the war. So it was good. It was good. And of course, we had someone always picks a luchador. Have you seen that?
With me, someone is always picking the hellbilly. Luchador is
hellbilly
often enough there, but that it's every single time with me. Funny. Except I think once someone has chosen the hellbilly.
That's a jug band bard guy.
Yeah.
That's the way. It's a really cool. I mean, it's what I mean. These characters are very character class is very evocative. All right, so Stefan, what do you do besides gaming?
Besides gaming, I try to take care of, just normal life stuff.
I guess I was asking like hobbies outside of this big. It's a big hobby. I agree.
Yeah,
I'm sure we all have shelves of stuff.
Yeah,
hopefully we'll get to one of these days. Usually we don't. But
I try to do some reading. I like a lot of the Appendix N type books. I read a lot of those. Right now I'm depending on the mood I'm in, I'm alternating between The Devil Rides Out by Dennis Wheatley and the King of Elfland's Daughter by Dunsany. So it's just which mood I'm in that day.
Right.
Definitely.
Yeah, I find myself doing that too, like jumping from book to book. I don't know if it's like late onset ADD, but like I'm reading. I'm still, and some books I guess get stalled in. Like I've been stalled in Ringworld Throne forever because it's just not appealing to me. And I really enjoyed Ringworld and Ringworld Engineers, but this one is like not enough to me. It's not enough of the principal characters and too much of the humans on Ringworld. But then I jumped to like Cowtown. The book I'm reading is called, what's it called? It's not Cowtown. There's a book I'm reading on like the assault, one of the assaults on D-Day. It's called Hitler's Guns, and it's the Ranger assault on the Pont du Hoc guns on D-Day. And then I jumped to Cowboy Kingdom, which is like the history of cattle industry in the West, which is actually more fascinating than it might sound. But so I do jump back and forth, right? Because you're right, whatever hits your mood, and sometimes you get hung up. And of course, and then there's always no one. I asked a friend of mine, does it count when I read a game book for my Goodreads? He said for sure, because he sees the game books and how big and thick they are, right? So I guess that counts too as reading. So read a lot of that, right? So call it research.
Yeah. When you have a little company like me and you make, a very meager amount of money every year, you tally up all those zines and they suddenly become a business expense. And then your business has made $0 that year.
You could write that off, I guess. I definitely, your projects are really intriguing. Of course, I'm very intrigued by the weird frontier stuff and the zines. And so it seems like Dragon Peak and what you're creating is going to be very diverse, kind of focused on DCC, but you want to branch out from that? Or, everyone's big thing is trying to get into, that other game, the 5e game, we'll say.
No, I think if I did a 5e thing, I would wait until I probably have another, I probably published like 5 different DCC fantasy style adventures, something that's where, okay, I've got enough to turn into maybe a small, but some kind of thin hardcover book for 5e. And I'll also do some kind of expansion compilation thing for DCC as well. I don't know. I've played a lot of 5e, but I haven't touched it in almost 3 years now.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So what do you, any games that you say you're going to try 4 games at something coming up recently? So Any recommendations for really cool games that aren't DCC or D&D based, or that you might have played recently?
My favorite thing that's not a DCC based thing is Call of Cthulhu. Just because you get a whole different type of story in there. I like investigative games and horror games too.
Do you think Call of Cthulhu still maintains like the horror vibe? I mean, you see Call of Cthulhu plushies all over the place, Call of Cthulhu for president buttons. I mean, is it overdone, or you think there's still some meat and viability, sustainability, I guess?
I sure think so. I think as far as like doing pure horror goes, I think Delta Green is probably better just because you have the modern day aspect. So you don't have to pretend like we're all pretending to be something, but now we have to pretend a little bit less, and it hits closer to home because it's modern day.
I like Stygian Fox and stuff for that same reason. It's like modern. There's a lot of their stuff is like modern horror and very adult themes, and it just takes a particular type of audience, but then it is more, I guess, realistic, as opposed to we're pretending to be a flapper in the or a gangsta in the 20s, right? So
it's whenever half of my game time is spent with me being like, come here, buddy, here, take a swig of this flask, or when I'm doing that, and a deep one gets me, and I automatically feel like making it a little bit funnier than it's probably supposed to
be. Yeah. Well, sometimes a levity is helpful if it's a bad situation. But I totally get that. Yeah. So I think I don't know. I don't have any other questions, Stefan. But if you have anything else you want to add or plug, or definitely how can we reach you? I know that I just found out that Dragon Peak Publishing, or I found out a few days ago that Dragon Peak Publishing does have a newsletter. So I signed up for your newsletter. We can do that. But how do we contact you? And what do you got? What are your famous last words in the podcast? Not for you.
Yeah, I got you. I've got the website dragonpeakpublishing.com. And you can sign up for a newsletter on there. It's pretty infrequent, but a lot of people signed up from the most recent Kickstarter. So I should probably be good about it not being so of it being more frequent. I should probably get better about that. But you can also contact me at dragonpeakpublishing@gmail.com, or on Twitter, I'm DM Bad Wrong Fun.
That's who you are. Okay.
Oh,
I was wondering who that was.
You've seen me posting stupid things.
No,
I try to keep it pretty. I don't follow people if they post too much political stuff, just because I'm not here for that. I can't. There's a fine line I ride between being aware of all the things they're trying to kill me and being depressed by them in this world. So I try to keep it pretty much just about games.
Yeah, cool. All right. Anything you want to say to our listeners before we sign off?
If you like TCC, come in and game with me. You can find me on Twitter, and I'm also on the Dungeon Crawlers Discord, which it's a public server. Y'all can find it real easy. If you go search on Discord, Dungeon Crawlers, all one word. We play a lot of games over there, and that's where I often am doing play tests. So I got.
Oh, cool! That sounds great. Yeah.
So the current ones are all signed up, but I at least give them weird names, like the Big Trouble for a Little Blood for Weird Frontiers, and a couple weeks after that, I'm gonna try out a Mutant Crawl Classics adventure that I've got a pretty strong outline and a lot of notes for. That is a combination between very very loose combination of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Wizard of Oz, and the song Big Rock Candy Mountain, and I'm calling that one the Technomancer of Candy Mountain. So it's gonna be weird.
Yeah, sounds fun though. It does sound fun. So yeah, I guess that did inspire me to ask one more question, and that is, so from playtest to publication, about how long did it take you? And you think it's going to get shorter, or is that a consideration? Does it matter? I mean,
It is a consideration. Like I've got two things right now that are probably like a couple more play tests and a and an actual hired editor away from being like publication ready. But then there's also getting art and layout and whatnot. But I also have to consider all of that investment, which the art is the biggest part, honestly. And how to get that to people in a way that I at very least am not losing money. So one of the things I'm working on is like a few Giants themed adventures, kind of as a homage to the classic G1 to 3. Yep. But I'm not just trying to retread old stuff. I'm not even doing the same Giants. I just kind of want to do 3 different Giants adventures and package them together. But it's just from a business standpoint, it probably makes more sense to wait until they're all 3 done than to do them one at a time, and to do one Kickstarter and fulfill one thing instead of trying to do that 3 times, because that is 3 times as much work. Yep. So the playtest to publication is, I don't know, playtest to being ready for publication. I can see that. I don't know if I can see that getting shorter, because that is just how busy is my life. So as many things in this hobby, there's not one answer. It's just there's the answer that works best for you.
Well, cool. Well, great stuff. Thanks for coming on, Stefan, and hoping to see more and more of your products and get to run them for people. Definitely, MCC, DCC, Weird Frontiers are all games that are, that I got loaded in my 6-shooter. So we'll definitely run those a lot, with a lot of my friends here that listen to the Geomologist Presents. So thanks again, and can't wait to see your next products.
Sounds good. Thank you for having me on.